Let's bring in Washington Examiner Deputy Editor of Restoring America, Kaylee McGhee White. Kaylee, great to see you as always. Democrats love to always say, Hunter was a private citizen. Then why, Kaylee, is he included on federal government emails discussing Ukraine policy?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. And even if it hadn't been for all of the evidence that James Comer and the House Oversight Committee have turned up, we would know that Joe Biden knows more about his son's foreign business dealings than he's letting on for two very simple reasons. The first is that the White House has deliberately changed its language on this subject from, no, I have never had any knowledge of my son's business dealings, to the president has never been in business with his son. That's a very deliberate change. And second, Todd, this is just common sense. Powerful foreign brokers were not forking over millions of dollars to the Biden family because of a crack addict who wrote off prostitutes on his tax returns. They were doing so because of his father, who had a lot of influence in regards to U.S. policy. So I hope that the committee does continue its work, because this is a question that's going to keep coming up, especially as we get closer to the 24 election. Still,
Kaylee, Democrats like Minnesota Governor Tim Walz continue to bury their head in the sand. Listen.
The Bidens love their son, but they also know that he's got his struggles, and he's not on the ballot. Joe Biden is, and Joe Biden's record is, and I think what he needs to do is let the system work. If I thought Joe Biden or had seen any proof that he were trying to influence that, I would certainly speak up. He hasn't done that. So I think we still need to continue to focus on it.
He doesn't see any proof. Not a real strong argument, Kaylee, when the president himself uses fake names in emails. Typically, my experience shows when you're using a fake name, you're up to no good, Kaylee.
Right, and that's a position that is also completely out of touch with what the American public is thinking about the scandal right now. There was a poll that came out this weekend that found that less than 1/3 of Americans have confidence that Biden's Justice Department is handling this investigation into Hunter Biden fairly. That's a very large majority of Americans who are concerned with the partisanship of the DOJ and the cover-up that is now taking place. So if this is the message that Democrats want to, run with into 24, I think they're going to hit a real wall.
Interesting. I'm excited to see these bank records that tie Joe Biden's bank account to, let's face it, foreign policy decisions. You know who's not? The rest of the apparatus of our nation's government. Here's James Comer talking more on that.
There are some bank records that we believe will tell a big story about what level of involvement not only Joe had with the business schemes, but how he benefited from the business schemes. The Biden attorneys know exactly where we're headed with this investigation. They have lawyered up. I mean, they are building Fort Knox around these bank accounts that we're going to subpoena next.
Yeah, he went in to talk to Maria about the FBI, DOJ, lots of other entities trying to stonewall him. If there is nothing to see, Kaylee, then why such a massive coordinated effort to keep the public from seeing it?
Right, and why slow walk the Hunter Biden investigation for years at a time unless you were deliberately trying to run the clock on the statute of limitations that could possibly incriminate Joe Biden? I mean, this is what people need to understand, is this is David Weiss's entire strategy. The reason the Hunter Biden investigation has been slow walked for so long, and the reason that there was this diversion agreement included in the sweetheart plea deal that would have exonerated Hunter Biden from basically all crimes that he committed between 2014 through 2019 is because that way the clock would run out of time on the statute of limitations for the criminal behavior that Joe Biden has allegedly been involved in. This is a very deliberate effort on the part of the Justice Department, and I think that, bravo to these IRS whistleblowers for coming forward and exposing that, because we now know, according to the New York Times, that the Justice Department would never have pursued this case against Hunter Biden at all if they had not been exposed.
The swamp protects its own. Finally, Hunter Biden's legal team reportedly vowed to put President Biden on the stand if the Justice Department charged Hunter with a crime in his federal tax case. I read that as a threat that, hey, if Joe Biden goes on the stand and ultimately is forced to leave office because of something he says on the stand, then you folks at DOJ, upper echelons there, could lose your job. 20 seconds to you, Kaylee.
It is a threat, and we're already seeing this threat play out. I mean, the sweetheart plea deal falls apart, and all of a sudden, all of this new evidence reported by the New York Times is leaked. That's not coming from the White House. It's coming from Hunter's lawyers in an effort to embarrass the Justice Department for caving on this sweetheart plea deal. The message is very clear. If Hunter is going down, Joe Biden is going down too, and that's the threat that his lawyers are now sending.
Kaylee McGhee White, great insight as always here on a Monday morning. We appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.